speaking of news, so Laurie's just sent me a thing. Corruption in organized real estate. Oh, this is about that lady, Greg, that you posted on
Polk County. Yeah, there was
Facebook in.
Butch Grady was parading her picture online that she'd basically ripped off the Polk County Association of Realtors to the tune of, I think, of about $80,000. And I, of course, like retweeted it and put it on Facebook and said, it's not just the Realtor Association that's ripping you off, but they're doing it at a local level as well.
Right. Yeah.
She was,
Right.
and they covered it up. The manager, so she was the CEO of the EPCAR, right, the East Polk County Association of Realtors.
Yes.
She was paying herself normally, and then she was also paying herself with a check. So there was a direct debit and a check, direct deposit and a check going out to her every month, as well as credit card use at like Sephora and other places for like beauty supplies, which Grady Judd, the sheriff there, who's quite amusing if you've ever seen him, he was like her mugshot picture that looks like this.
Whoops.
He's like clearly the beauty supplies weren't working for this woman. But it says 53-year-old Jennifer, theft over 20 grand. Oh, well, she got done for theft over 20 grand and less than 100,000. But I mean, if you look at the membership though, I mean, there's 88 to 90,000 real estate agents in Stellar MLS, and for 20 something years, and still today, like last week, I had to call them and say, what are you doing telling people that they can't quit NAR and they can't quit? They said, sorry, this was a realtor that was joining Easy Realty, right? So they're going, so the first thing they have to do before they can move their license, before they can move the Stellar account over to a Thompson broker one, is cancel NAR. That's all they're looking for. So she calls the association, I want to cancel my NAR membership and my membership with you. You can't do that. You have to wait until it's expired. So what are you talking about? And then she calls me back. She says, oh, I can't move brokerage yet. They won't let me cancel my membership. What do you mean? You're paying them. You can do whatever you want. You're the member. So I had to call them back and say, like, what are you doing telling people this? And it's like, every time that like, oh, if you want to join, it's going to cost you this, it's going to cost you this, it's going to cost you this, and then you can join the MLS, and that's going to cost you this. And you're like, no, I want to join I just want to join the MLS. No, you can't do that. Yes, I can. Let me put you on hold for a minute, right? And then a few minutes later, they come back. Oh, okay. So if you want to do instead a Thompson broker application, you can do. They don't do it, and they don't tell anybody that you can do it from the get-go. So these, in Stella, for example, 90,000 realtors, and they're ripping them off for a good $1,000 a piece every year for 20 something years, not letting you know that there's even this option that would, in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, it's like it's a legal precedent that they have to give you the option. There are other realtor-owned MLSs, and I kind of get it that, like, if it's a tool that's owned by the association, then it's a proprietary tool, right? If we had some sort of system within Easy Realty, that we don't just let anybody use that system that's outside, right? Even if our agents are paying for it or whatever. So you got to join the brokerage, and then you get access to any of the tools that we've got, right? From training resources to whatever it might be. So I understand that, but the MLSs are not, they're independent companies, right? They're a third party from the Realtor Association and several associations. They all use one MLS. So the MLS as a business should be allowed to make the decision and not have NAR handcuff a third party company into dictating how they can run their business and operate.
Yeah, so they almost make you feel like you have to be part of the association in order to have MLS access. And when I was calling the different boards here in Southwest Florida, so there was 3 major ones, Bonita Springs, Naples, and there was one other one, and they all kind of made you feel like you had to be part of the association. I said, listen, I don't want to be part of the association, and I'm not going to be part of the association. As a matter of fact, it's illegal for you to force me to be part of the association.
Right.
Then all of a sudden they changed their whole tune.
Right.
They said, oh, yeah, well, you could be part of it. You could see about getting with the Thompson broker and MLS only access. Like, that's all I want. I don't want to be part of the association and deal with all these extra I already follow state regulations. I don't need an additional bunch of nonsense. They do nothing for me. For what? Just so I can put realtor under my name?
Right.
People don't even know the difference between realtor and real estate agent. They have
But
no
the
idea.
people that work at the realtor boards, they answer the phone. Osceola County Association of Realtors. I'm sorry,
Can't even
where?
say it.
You work there.
Right. So, if you pay me enough money, I'll tell you what you want to hear. But can I, formalize this? John, is your microphone on there? Could you introduce
Yeah,
yourself to everybody so we know who you are and what your involvement is, so that everybody has an understanding about how you can bring something to the party here and help everybody potentially.
sure, absolutely. So my name is John Annunziata. As far as my background goes, I've been in real estate now for going on about 15 years. My career started in real estate with a brokerage that primarily focused on working um, with mortgage servicers on foreclosed assets. So essentially, between the real estate brokerage and the original lender of a mortgage loan, when a loan is foreclosed on, it gets assigned to a mortgage servicer, and then they assign that to a local brokerage. So that is where my real estate career began. In addition to that, the same brokerage, also the broker's father owned about 70 Section 8 homes. So in addition to managing these foreclosed assets for the lenders and mortgage servicers, I also was managing, houses that accepted vouchers. So that's kind of where my real estate career began. And that kind of cycled into property management, essentially, because when a property is foreclosed on, there's a bunch of steps leading up to listing the property. And sometimes that could take months, sometimes it could take years. There's a ton of steps once a property is foreclosed on to jump through. Maybe now it's a little bit faster. I know they're, selling houses with occupants currently in them. So they're auctioned off with somebody in the house, and then whoever buys the house, it's up to them to go through with the eviction or working. Yeah. So that's something new, relatively new. It's been going on for a couple of years now. Moving forward from that brokerage, I ended up managing a bunch of properties for different investors in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. I also taught some classes for EXP Realty, teaching agents success. So whatever tactics they might need for success, whether it be setting up a CRM, personal websites, the benefits of local SEO, so local optimization for local agents. So I've done that for quite a bit of time. And then from there, my career pretty much stemmed into a lot of off market deals, helping people who are facing distressed situations. So homeowners who are in facing foreclosure, or perhaps they inherited an asset and they need to dispose of it very quickly. Throughout the years, I've also acquired a mass of investors throughout the state of Florida who want to, looking for cash deals. So I'm able to help homeowners get out of a bad situation, and then moving forward, essentially put them into a home with as little problems as possible. So a lot of times it's just avoiding foreclosure or getting them cash for a house that they inherited that they can't afford the repairs on, or whatever the case may be. Throughout my years, I've definitely learned a lot of different aspects of real estate and have a lot of tools in the toolbox to help different situations, as well as licensed agents.
Florida's number one in the country at present for a new round of foreclosures and short sales,
Foreclosure.
right? So
Yep.
we're coming back up on that period of time again. So what are you seeing down there in this ways in the way of defaults and stuff?
Right. So right now I'm currently in Southwest Florida, and specifically Cape Coral. I'm seeing a lot of investors coming in who were initially spending too much. They're trying to build too much too fast, and they're facing foreclosure. So we have a lot of these houses that are about 90% complete, or just almost complete, and they're running out of money to finish it. So I'm seeing a lot of that. I also see quite a few people facing foreclosure, which is kind of traditional in Florida. There's always going to be foreclosures. There's always some type of distress, and that's completely okay. At the end of the day, maybe
That
someone.
happens with divorce when somebody just refuses to pay a payment or alimony or something like that, and it just happens. But the spec homes, that's reminiscent of like the movie The Big Short, where they're driving around with his mom in Florida, and there's sort of, she's got all of those properties that are like 80% done, 90% done, and doesn't have the
Right.
cash to finish them. And even if she did finish them, there's no buyer for them.
Right.
Right. Yep. Yep. And that's kind of where we'll step in a situation, and we do our best to help people who are facing, or investors who are facing these problems. We do our best to help alleviate that stress so that they can maybe continue with their business and continue growing their business. So if that means,
Could you send me some details of some of these properties? I've got one or two investors that would have an interest in taking a look at these and maybe picking them up, especially with
absolutely,
construction experience, that they could potentially finish them. And
yeah,
yeah, if you'd be kind enough to share that, and I can
for
I'll
sure.
take a look.
Yep. I actually have two that are short sales right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know, they'd be the owner's looking to get out of them. Currently they have tenants in them, but which is kind of a plus and a minus. One of the tenants is already paid up for 6 months, and the other one is right on time with their payments. Both those properties I'm actually managing at the moment as
Are there
well.
any multifamily properties, or are they all single family homes?
There's probably more single family homes that I see here, depending on what road you are on. If you're down the main strip, or the main roads, like if you're driving down Del Prado, or you'll see some multifamily. I see more multifamily properties out in Lehigh. I see a lot of duplexes out there when I drive through. So that area is a little different than Cape Coral, but there is more multifamily, and I do see some that are vacant, just kind of sitting there. And I'm not sure what's going on with them, but I'm gonna be investigating a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Some of the mentorship and coaching and e-learning that I've been working on for the agents here at Easy Realty, for the Easy Realty team as well, we're growing that down into Southwest Florida now with John. So to bring some agents on the Southwest Florida team to take some mentorship from you, John, about find short sellers, how to approach them, and how to run them through the process of a short sale if the agents are newer to the business or missed the boat last time. As far as some of the heavy hitters go in short sales, getting in now with the with the banks, with BPOs and all the rest of it. Now's the time the banks are reevaluating. As soon as somebody's missing a payment, they're sending an agent out for a BPO, right? Greg, you see a lot of these coming through, don't you?
Well, because there's so many vacation homes. Incidentally, if any agents want to make a note of a website where you can sign up and do BPOs, they're not necessarily BPOs. They want you to take photographs of properties. Sometimes they're refinancing these properties, but it's done on a zip code basis. So you can log in. They'll only pay you a few dollars just to go and take like 7 pictures of a property. But if you do enough of them, eventually you'll get a listing from one of these guys. So the website is, and if maybe you can share it, it's velocityreos.com. And you can log in, register, put the zip codes that you would like to cover, and they'll start sending you details. It's very important when you do this that you take the pictures in a certain way. So they have to be done in a landscape format rather than a portrait format. And if you make the wrong ones, they'll make you go and retake them. But typically they want things such as, a picture of the front of the house head on, one of the road sign, one of the road facing left and facing right, and then 2 at a 45-degree angle from each side of the property. And they'll pay you like $15 or something. It's not a lot of money, but as I say, if you it's a bit of incremental income, and if you do enough of them, they'll give you a listing eventually. So,
And typically, with that company, do they also ask that those photos are dated? And
no, they
no,
don't. They don't want them any dated. But the faster you do them, the more you'll get. I mean, there's one occasion I did like 5 in the space of an hour, and they're relatively clumped together, depending on the zip code, of course. And there's one that I even took when I was walking the dog, and it was in the community where I am, and so literally walked by it and just took some pictures as I did it, and so I got paid $10 for walking the dog that day. As I say, it's not if you put the money into something like some people put it in crypto or any stocks and shares, wherever it is, it's a bit of incremental money that you can do in your spare time. And as I say, it's you do enough of them, you'll get a listing.
More than that, yeah, your name's on documents that they're seeing as they're coming through. So the more you're doing in terms of BPOs, there's people with eyes on that, and they're seeing this person.
Yeah.
So the asset managers, right? They're seeing
Yeah.
this person, seeing this person's name, and they're doing
Over and over again.
You're on their radar as
yeah.
and
I
this is how the
honestly,
big guys got all the business last time. Those that got in first, like now, before everybody else has realized that there's even they're not even thinking short sales. Half the people last cycle the agents didn't even know what a short sale was.
Right.
But the people that have been around, they were heavy hitters. They had all the listings in town. There'd be one or two guys with all of the listings in town. It's because they spent the time now doing a few BPOs for no money, right? But, or just the gas money to go and do it. But it's a loss leader in, what could potentially be something big. Right.
For those people who are interested, there's a video on easyrealty.com. If you scroll down the page and it says foreclosures are back. And there was a guy from California, a former banker, a head loss mitigator at IndyMac Bank, who gave me this video and told me to share it. And it basically explains why foreclosures and bankruptcies are literally guaranteed. They're built into the system. It's a mathematical certainty. And I think this time, everybody that's spoken to me, I think this crash is going to be bigger than any we've had previously, maybe as big as the Depression.
I'd actually track them back. Last time this happened, I tracked the cycles back to like the 1920s, right? And they were a U shape, and then a V shape, and then then a very sharp V shape, and then now, and they're becoming sharper and more frequently. So this is like a W almost, right? From when, for different circumstances, it's never the same thing. They fix one problem, they create another problem. They've got inflation, so they're whacking up interest rates to then make it impossible to move, and people don't want to move. And then some people have to move, and then you're going from one house, and the price of the property's gone up significantly. Like it's surprisingly more
Another
expensive.
problem that people are facing, especially in Broward and Miami, is I'm not sure if you guys remember, there was a collapse. One of the buildings had collapsed. So since then, a lot of the insurance companies have pulled out of Miami, or they've increased the rates, to so high on, with the association, that people can no longer afford their condo anymore. So, an increase of $200 or $300 per month, it sometimes puts people, that's their budget. That's it. And they're kind of forced to move out because they can no longer afford to live there just because of this increase. And of course, then the association, obviously they want to charge more. So it's becoming very unaffordable for a lot of people who are already living in condos. Now they can no longer afford it. Then you have agents trying to list the properties for more than what it's, just astronomical numbers that do not make sense, but they're promising homeowners, hey, we're going to get you top dollar. Meanwhile, these people are facing foreclosure. I just feel like that they're doing them a very big disservice when, someone's in a bad situation. At the end of the day, we're here, and especially in a situation like this, to help someone get out of a bad situation, not make it worse.
I think the worst advice agents gave people last time around was skip a payment, right? Because you're never getting that. You just need to initiate the short sale process as it is. Get rid of that. They didn't understand the sense of urgency around getting that asset off of that person's books, right? Which is just sell the thing now. And there was the complications of all of the like second and third mortgages though, right? Which you're not seeing so much of this time around, which should make the short sales a lot easier because you're not negotiating this unsecured loan as a second that they had to fight for before they finally just gave up on it. But I think this time will be easier in terms of how the short sale process works. But it's important that it's understand that they've got to get this person out of this situation.
They have to move with urgency. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Also, I think it's important to emphasize the distinction between loan modifications. There's two loan modifications that are out there. One is good and one is very bad. The good one is what's known as a recast. That's a new 30, 40-year fixed rate term with a revised lower payment. Sometimes there'll be maybe a forbearance agreement, which is basically a payment holiday built into it. You extend the loan by a certain number of missed payments. The bad one is the dreaded trial loan modification. And what that is the bank trying to extract information from you, and they're still going to foreclose on you. Understand the bank is not your friend. They're going to do what's best for the bank. And essentially, when you try and do your loan modification on a trial basis,
they're just trying to get a little bit more money out of you, basically. Yeah,
they want
seeing what you can afford.
You're going to try and make yourself look good to the bank in order to qualify for the loan modification. And the reality is they're still going to foreclose and come after all the assets that you've divulged that you have outside of the piece of real estate, whether it's
I think loan modification, it's not just short sell it. It's not, I can't afford it, get rid of it, right? The trial, trial loan modification. It's like when you separate with your wife, right? The trial separation never works, and you still end up
Doesn't
getting
work out too
divorced.
well.
I mean, Lee Honish said, when you write a hardship letter, it should be no more than 4 lines. That's it. I've seen people do like 2 or 3 pages. No, I've lost my job. I can't afford it. Please approve it. That's kind of
Right.
it. Whatever
Right.
I've got to jump into a meeting. I'm going to leave you guys to continue talking. Okay.
All right. So we have some other ideas here, some other things on the agenda that I want to push to the guys. But you've got some other potential information you can share with the agents about in terms of technology and your skills with regards to that, I believe, John. So
Yeah, so I'm gonna be focusing on I want to pretty much, I guess I'm just gonna make some YouTube videos or some videos for everyone, basically showing how to pull different types of leads, the benefits of them,
okay,
and then how to import them into a dialer, how to set up the dialer correctly, make sure that you're scrubbing against the federal do not call list because it's extremely important to avoid any legal problems, and then how to set up the dialer correctly, and then basically moving forward, it's just a matter of just having a conversation with somebody and understanding that every number that you call may not be the best. Sometimes people are going to tell you to get lost because a lot of them have already received 10 phone calls from someone trying to get the listing.
right.
And I've been most successful at getting listings when I call somebody and I'm not even trying to get the listing. I just say, hey, I want to know if I can help you and how I can help you if
Right.
I can help you.
Yeah.
So that's how I end up with, pretty good, very good relationships.
Well, I started up I built a free guide for people that were facing foreclosure. And effectively, I think, as I recall, there's like 11 or 12 different options that are open to people. And most people are not aware. And they always take option number 1, which is to do nothing. And that's the worst thing you can do because there's a lot of different alternatives here. We've mentioned the loan modification, the 2 different types. There's also something called a partial claim, which is you borrow against the equity and bring the loan current. There's a forbearance agreement, which is a kind of payment holiday. There's a short sale. You can deed it back to the bank. There's all these different options. And there's a guide that I created, which I'll share with anybody that has an interest, and you can share it with potential customers and give them the options that are open to them. Always the best thing to do is don't do nothing. That's the worst thing you can do.
Right.
But I'm sure, with the technology side of things, the ability that you can create. We were talking just before the meeting started about the fact that you could create a template, and if agents want their own personal website, it's effectively a business card with their listings on if they want, or they could have a feed that you have that option and ability to do that.
Yeah, of course. Yep. No problem. Absolutely. I mean, it might take 10 minutes sometimes. I know there's some platforms that automatically do it that some other brokerages use as soon as they sign up an agent, and it's, pretty much plug and play. They upload their picture, there it is, and you can make some little changes here and there. Um, you know, those I'm not, because then you're married to that particular CRM, that
Yeah.
particular system.
Yeah. Well,
So I'm not
tell me, it's no real different because I understand now that, as they were running out of domain names, and .realty was the option that was brought to me by Stu there. But there's another one, which is .realtor. And if you resign your realtor membership, you're going to lose your website, which is, John
because you're
Smith.
no longer a realtor.
Yeah. So got you by the short and curlies again, haven't they?
Right.
So, but I like the fact that you could potentially keep something, and it brings you money. I'm fine with spending money that makes me money. I hate it when I spend money that loses me money, which is I don't have a car payment, believe it or not. I have just old cars that I drive around in.
That's a beautiful thing.
It is because I see people that have they spend more on their car payment than they do on their house payment. For goodness sake, it's like other people. You worry less what other people think of you when you realize how seldom they do. They're not going back and going, "Oh, wow, did you see his car? It was beautiful." Anyway, what we're doing for dinner later? It's that kind of thing. It's a nonsense, really.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
box that takes you around from A to B.
It's funny also when you're depending on what kind of listings you have.
Yes.
People, especially in the Miami market and the Fort Lauderdale market, a few years back, I had 3 different vehicles.
Yeah.
So I had a pickup truck, with the lift on it, the Silverado with the big tires and the 10-inch lift, or an 8-inch lift with 35-inch tires. And I had a Maserati, and my motorcycle, I had a Ducati.
Right.
So it's funny, people treated me differently when I showed up in my pickup truck than when I showed up in my Maserati.
Really?
And, so when I showed up in my Maserati, I said, wow, you must, you're doing great. But when I show up in my pickup truck, it's a little different. Now, they feel like, okay, you're the same. But when you show up in, a different type of car, it's just sad.
You know what? It's entirely different in the UK, because if you show up in a really fancy car, people are instantly suspicious of you. You're making too much money and you're doing something inappropriate here. I really don't care what you think of me. I really don't. Judge me as you find me. I want to give people stuff. I don't want to take it from them, because I'm
Right.
constantly bombarded with people trying to sell me stuff, whether it's recruitment services or website enhancements or whatever it is. Everybody's trying to sell you something. I'm trying to
Yep.
offer people something. And with
Right.
that, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which was compliance, because one of the things that Stu has implemented over the past few days is an AI bot, which effectively refers to Florida Chapter 475, and that's where it's getting all its knowledge. And so if somebody has a legal question that they wish to ask, this thing is going to effectively give you the appropriate answer, which it sort of answers one of the things that realtors often say, that you get the benefits of your realtor membership, which is the free legal hotline. Well, I'm sorry, but legal hotlines are redundant now. You don't need it. We've got an AI bot that does exactly that and gives you more accurate information, by the way, because it's constantly updating itself and changing as the laws change. So, that's no longer an issue for people that were worried about losing some of the benefits of the realtor membership, which is the, what is it? Healthcare, cheaper healthcare. I mean, what else that got to do with real estate? For goodness.
It's kind of ridiculous because the people from the healthcare, when you sign up, all of a sudden you're getting 10 text messages every day from someone trying to sell you some type of reduced insurance, health insurance.
Exactly what it is. It's,
Yeah.
the car insurance thing, you could say, I heard State Farm and Progressive are the ones that seem to be doing all the TV advertising. I heard one saying you can save $900 a year on your car insurance. And I'm thinking, I don't spend that much in a year. I spend less than half that in a year for my car insurance.
Right.
It's bizarre. We've got some news on different areas of and some of the MLSs. There are over 20 different MLS systems in Florida, which to me amazes me. It's utterly ridiculous. Your license covers Florida, so should the MLS. You're forced to join any one of 20 different ones, and sometimes people pay for several. Our aim here is to have membership of every single MLS, but we're going to need the agent's help here. If somebody joins along and they've already got as a broker associate membership, talk to us about how we could effectively give other agents that can hang their license. We are members at the moment, I think, of Stellar MLS, also Beaches MLS, My State MLS. But as I say, there's many, many more. And one of the big ones is, of course, down in Miami, where there's 5 associations that all share a single MLS down in Miami. And we can view listings on the Miami MLS. We have a reciprocal arrangement through Stellar. So we can view things that are listed on Beaches MLS and Miami, as well as Stellar, but we can't see the ones that we list on those, because I'm not sure if agents are aware, but from Stellar MLS or any MLS that you're a member of, you can list in every single county and every zip code in the state of Florida from that single MLS. The problem is that the agents in that location may or may not necessarily be able to see them. So I
Right.
can list a property in Miami, but the agents on the Miami MLS can't see it. Come on, things have to change. It can't go on
Yeah.
like this thing, So ultimately, I want to move towards a single MLS that we operate and control. But the biggest problem, of course, is the data, because it has to be that you can see a listing on My State MLS if you're looking on Stellar and vice versa, even though they're in the same geographical location. Why can't we do that? Why are they not sharing the data? Do you know?
I just think it's a money thing at the end of the day. That's ridiculous. And you're right. My license covers the state of Florida. Why do I have to sign up to 3 or 4 or 5 different MLSs just to get data for, as an example, I'm kind of on both coasts of Florida. So I can operate in Broward and Miami. I'm also located in Southwest Florida. So I have clients on both ends of the, sides of the state. Well, the problem is, all right, well, I need to find my client who's in Miami. He's looking for a property. And since I'm a member of Beaches, I can do that. But if I was only a member of an MLS on the Southwest Florida, so whether it be Bonita or Naples, it's called Neighbor, Naples is. If I was only a member of one of those boards, it would be extremely difficult for me to see those listings on the other coast as an agent in Southwest Florida.
Right.
Now, there is a button that you can press when you're on the MLS, and it's called Advantage, I believe. Here's the problem with that. It does not show broker remarks. So if I have a listing in Cape Coral, but it's listed through the Beaches MLS, and an agent in Cape Coral clicks on Advantage, sees the listing, they can't see the broker remarks. From what I understand, because I did have this happen to me recently, they weren't able to schedule a showing. They weren't able to see the broker remarks. So the information that they're seeing when they click on Advantage is limited. Even though when you speak to the people at the MLS, they say, yeah, the listings are there. You just have to click on Advantage and everything is there. No, that's not the case. It's not there. And it should be to its entirety.
In Port Charlotte, which is down there as well, of course. Now, my understanding is that the majority of agents are members of, what do you call it, NABAR?
Correct.
But also Stellar MLS covers part of it as well.
Right.
Now,
okay.
The bizarre thing is that if you're part of Stellar MLS, you can list a property in Port Charlotte, but the agents on the other MLS can't see it. But ironically, there's several websites where you can see them all. One of which is Homes.com, which does share all of that information, that like the broker's remarks, for example, and the listing description. Realtor.com is the other one, but the one to avoid is Zillow, because they do not list the listing agent's details. They want to sell it to some other agent and make 30% off the commission as a referral fee, whatever. So I've got a problem with Zillow and Trulia, but if you really want access to all of that information, and in fact, if you go to Realtor.com, you can set up auto searches and be notified automatically of new listings that exactly match your criteria, just like you do in the MLS, but for free.
Right.
So you don't have to do it. So, the question is, do we really need the MLS? And while I'm on the subject, I want to refer to something by a guy called Rory Sutherland, who is the speaker for Ogilvy, which is a marketing company. Very eloquent guy, and he's been working for them for years. He was the one, by the way, that came up and said to American Express, why not put member since, whatever year it was. And that has effectively been worth $1 billion to American Express, because people don't really want to give up their card and get a new one that says, oh, I've only been a member since 2025, because you look a bit of a dick then. Now, his suggestion was, and he used the analogy of a drill. So, and I alluded to this earlier, if you have a drill at home, how often do you use it? Is it once a year? Is it twice a year? So do you really need to buy a drill? Whereas, I think Jeff Bezos has this idea with Amazon that if you want to drill, a drone will drop a drill off at your door. You can use it for 24 hours. It brings the anchors and the screws and the drill bits that you need, and then it'll come and pick it up afterwards, and you pay a much smaller fee. Apply that logic to the MLS. Right. Why does everybody need their own MLS? Surely we just need one.
Yeah. And especially if you're a buyer's agent, say you're maybe you're not big on listings. I'm a big advocate to be a listing agent. However, there are just agents that want to focus on helping people find homes, and they take joy in that. I don't really think they even should be paying a fee, because realistically, they could use Zillow or Homes.com to find those properties. Or actually, they would have to use Homes.com to see the listing agent. I know Realtor.com also shows the listing agent if you do a little searching around on the page. But, buyer's agents, first of all, I really don't think they need to have, the access to, list the properties and everything, especially if they're just trying to find a home for somebody. And you're right, a listing agent, why should I pay for an entire year? If, say you have an agent that's only listing one property a year, maybe they pay $50 and it gets listed until it's sold. That's it. $50 done. Yep. Where someone like me, I have 4 current listings right now. So that might not be so advantageous. It might not be to my advantage to pay, a fee per property. Because
Right.
say it was $50, I'm already paying $200. And for us to sign up to Beach is just MLS only access was like $303.
Some of them are really quite tiny. There's one called Heartlands MLS, which I think covers Sebring. And they only have, I mean, bear in mind, my yardstick for this is Stellar MLS, who have 58,000 members. Heartland has 700. And if you think, oh, maybe I was looking for a piece of land, of those 700, a tiny number of them are probably selling land. The rest are doing either rentals or single family home or duplexes or wherever it is, or even some commercial stuff. So surely these are going to have to be swallowed up by the big guys sooner or later, aren't they? You would think.
Right. Yeah.
How are they still making any money?
Right.
With having that smaller number of membership. I've got another item here I want to move on to, which is, and this is something that Stu wanted me to mention, is the fact that in January, we're going to start on implementation of Teams. Now, for those uneducated in this, I learned about this some years ago from a guy called Craig Proctor. He used to market himself as the former #1 Remax agent in the world, which obviously begs the question, do Remax exist outside of North America? But anyway, it's irrelevant. So his suggestion and idea was that, and I wasn't aware of this, but we have something called inside sales agents, outside sales agents, and transaction coordinators. So the way this would work is that you would have the inside sales agents that are basically getting all the leads and getting the listings, for example, or they're trying to find buyers that you can work with. You then have a different group of people, and their sole responsibility is as an outside sales agent. They're just showing the properties or going out and listing the properties. And then in the final stage of it is the transaction coordinator, and they take a flat fee for handling all of the thing from contract to close. And their sole job is just office based. There's these different things. Now, of course, if you most realtors and agents are all things to all people, and they do the entire process. But, if you've got a particular need that, let's say, for example, your job, you have another job maybe, and you could only do the transaction management in your spare time, that sort of opportunity is even better because you're not having to go out and meet with people. Maybe you don't have the personality that lends itself to that thing. But anyway, this is something that we're going to implement. And part of that, the inclusion of that, is this hyper-local website. And that's where you effectively have a predetermined geographical area, and everybody is associated with that one area, and you don't go outside of your coverage zone. And of course, you'll have some very good insight as to how you could bring in the listing details and data for people, explain what an IDX feed is for those uneducated, if you would, John.
You said IDX?
IDX, yeah. What is an IDX?
So IDX stands for Internet Data Exchange, is what it stands for. And typically, it's a way for us to receive information from the MLS feed. Basically, you would use something like IDX Broker or iHome Finder to display the information that's from the MLS, and it be presented on a website, is basically what it is. And that's done typically through the use of what seems to be an iframe for the most part, because the information is not actually on your website. When I make a post on a website, like on WordPress, I write up an article and post it, it's on my website. So it's hosted there. Whereas when we're using something like on an IDX feed from MLS, it's not actually hosted on our website. It looks like it is, but it's not actually hosted there. So it's just information that's hosted elsewhere and being presented on a local website, if you will.
So if for example, you had a team that are operating in, I don't know, let's just choose a town, let's say it's Silver Springs, for example, then you could set up every different property listed by all the different realtors on silversprings.easy.realty, for example, and everybody looks like you're listing it. From the outside, everybody would assume it's one of your listings. If they want to see it, they will come to you.
Right. And everything, when it comes from the IDX, there's always a footer on the, and it's like basically a disclaimer for the most part. And it says listing courtesy of Easy Realty or listing courtesy of XYZ brokerage, whatever the case may be. And I think that's it's a requirement, and you has to say that. Yep.
Okay. But it can be structured in such a way that, it essentially
looks like it's on our
it's all on our website. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's something to look forward to in January and in a future podcast, I'm sure we're going to expand on that a little bit more. The last item on the thing today is Easy Mortgage. Now, we have several mortgage brokers as part of the members of the Easy Realty team. One of the things we're trying to introduce is to try and keep as much of the customers engaged and for various different aspects of it. Obviously, there's different income streams. So, if we've got a team of appraisers on hand and we've got a team of home inspectors on hand, and then potentially some individual contractors for different locations and different areas. But part of it is the mortgage thing, because if somebody is a customer to buy and sell a property, that's a one-time deal. But of course, mortgage rates change, interest rates change, deals are affected, and you can go along. Sometimes people's circumstances change, and if we can go back to them and say, "Hey, look, we sold your house a couple of years ago, but interest rates have changed, and you can actually save $300 or $400 a month now by refinancing," and open up a communication and maintain that connection with the individual clients by using Easy Mortgage. That's something that's also being planned. So, have you got any comments that you could expand on that, John?
Yeah. So I think the home buying experience is probably one of the biggest expenses next to the car buying experience, right?
Right.
And one of the biggest companies who took purchasing a car from an in-person situation to an online experience is Capital One.
Okay.
And they're actually working with a lot of local car dealerships. And basically, someone could jump on. Capital One usually sends out an email, see what you can get approved for. You click on the link, you fill out some information. There's no hard inquiry on your credit. It's actually, I believe, a soft inquiry, so it doesn't affect credit at all. And they can say, okay, well, now what do you want your payment to be? What's affordable to you? So based off of that information, off of this soft inquiry and what you want your monthly payment to be, what's next presented on the website is vehicles that fit your parameters. So I think, the next step would be for someone to be able to do that with homes, because a lot of people, let's face it, this is a technology. We're in 2025 going on into 2026. So I think taking the home buying experience online, just like they did with the cars, because I don't want to go to a car dealership. It's annoying. I want to know what I'm approved for. And okay, great. This is what I'm really interested in. Now I'll make a phone call, or I'll just say, hey, okay, I'm interested. Click a button. And that agent calls me up. Hey, I saw you were interested in 123 Happy Street. When are you available to come see it? And we eliminate a whole bunch of steps now, right?
Right, exactly. Well, I suppose in terms of car buying, you could use the analogy of Tesla, because they don't really have dealers. They have some service centers, but if you want to buy a Tesla, you go online and buy a Tesla online. And that's where we're moving. We're trying to adopt and implement that model in terms of real estate, because the idea the thousands of cars are sitting on dealers' storage facilities at the moment because they just can't sell them right now. I mean, there's a bubble in terms of the car financing, and so many repossessions. They're going through the roof at the moment because people just can't afford the payments, and they can't afford to trade them in and resell them and refinance them because
And they're
no
upside
equity
down.
in them, unless you bring
Yeah.
a big check, because there were so many were sold after COVID at these ridiculous rates.
Right.
Anyway, it's interesting how things are going to grow and develop, and of course, we are here for everybody. If anybody has any questions, we are available. You can contact us either through Slack, or if you're new to the industry, or you're an existing realtor and have some questions, obviously reach out to us. Go to easy.realty, and our contact details are there. And we're a little bit different because we do actually answer the phone. And if we can't, we'll text you back and call you back very, very quickly. These days, it seems that's quite rare. If you,
A lot of real estate agents don't answer the phone. It's kind of scary. I don't understand how you do business without
I don't know either.
answering the phone. My phone rings. I mean, I have about 6 different phone numbers, but they all go to one cell phone. That phone rings, I'm answering it as long as I'm able to.
Yeah. It's like if you need a plumber and you call up a plumber and it goes to voicemail, what are you going to do? You're going to leave
Next.
a message and wait for him to call you back? No, you're going to
Well,
move on to the next one, aren't you? Exactly. So that's the logic that I use, the simple principle. John, if there's anything else, let me know. But I think we should wind it up for the time being. I know that a lot of people got a lot of things to do out there. But thank you very much for your time and company and your insights. And
Yes, sir.
obviously we can we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, John.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.